The Legend of Zelda is my favourite franchise ever made. I love its stories and its vast lore. However, one thing I don't like about it is that it can be very inconsistent, whether it's about the characters or, in case of today's video, the geography. Hyrule constantly changes, whether it's a forest or a lake, or whether it's a massive volcano. This is why this video was surprising to make, as I came to the realisation piecing this world together was not difficult. Now I believe that I have pieced together a Zelda world map. Yes, the entire Zelda world. Hyrule, New Hyrule, Holodrum and Labrina. Now without further ado, I shall start this theory and where I started. First we must start with where, I started. Recently I've started playing Spirit Tracks again, and a thought crossed my mind. Where would New Hyrule be located? We know from the opening cutscene from this game that New Hyrule has always been around alongside the Spirit Tower. I also thought it was quite odd that such a large landmass would be above the flooded world and we have still not been able to see it. So I headed on Breath of the Wild, the most recent Zelda game. Now I could have went on an older game, it may have been more accurate, however I believe that Breath of the Wild is the more accurate one and is a lot more consistent with how the world is made. In fact, it was very similar to the map of Skyward Sword, and in this case even the map to Spirit Tracks. So I went here to check first. I couldn't believe it. I remembered. To the north of Hyrule there is a large valley with massive cliffs overlooking it. Beyond it were many fields and more mountains. It was here where I made a sudden realisation, so I headed onto the Photoshop to compare the two maps of Breath of the Wild and Spirit Tracks. What I found was very surprising. There is a part of the ocean to the south of the Spirit Track map that lines up exactly to one of the large valleys in Breath of the Wild to the north. The surrounding areas were also identical. At this point I already knew that what I was looking at was New Hyrule. So I decided to go further. Another game I enjoyed was Triforce Heroes, a game that takes place in Hytopia. Surprisingly, this also didn't take long to work out. In New Hyrule there is there are pyramids to the southwest and a fiery area to the northwest. Now in New Hyrule, even though it is in a completely different timeline, there is a pyramid to the southeast of New Hyrule and a fire area to the northeast. It is in my opinion that these are the same place, and this is too much to just be a coincidence. This means that these two are connected. At this point I couldn't believe that I fitted together yet another Zelda kingdom. My next task was to focus on Holodrum and Labrina, the kingdoms in the Oracle games. Holodrum was a piece of cake. I connected the desert to the southeast to the Gerudo Desert. However, Labrina was a different story. Unfortunately, due to the addition of the ocean to the east of Hyrule and Breath of the Wild, I couldn't place Labrina there. In the Link to the Past map, Labrina was connected to Hyrule from the east. However, I'm using the Breath of the Wild map, as I believe the Link to the Past map is far too inconsistent for today's times. So instead of placing Labrina south of Hyrule, instead I placed Labrina south of Hyrule, and it's the only place it fits, and unfortunately, this one is a stretch, so take this with a grain of salt. Finally, I attempted to fit Link's Adventures map in. However, due to it being the second Zelda game, the world wasn't established, and unfortunately, I was unable to place it in the world map. So that's it, my Zelda map. This is what I believe the world of Zelda looks like. I also believe that this might help prove the timeline placement of Breath of the Wild. In fact, I believe this proves that Breath of the Wild takes place in the child timeline. However, I will be making a separate video going through this, with more examples and more evidence. Thanks for watching. This was my first scripted and highly edited video. So this was a new thing for me. I would really appreciate it if you gave me feedback on my video and ways to improve, as I really want to build my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Remember to subscribe and leave a like.